Don't wait till the night before Christmas to be good.
And in 3, 2, 1, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode whatever the fuck of the Prehistoric podcast. It's a 12th podcast of Christmas again. We're back at it. I think it's the 7th time we've done this. Don't quote me on that. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Francois the Nation.
I'm Andrew Sorsdahl.
I'm sure that I've been this person before, but I am the evil dentist, Dr. Isaac Yankum.
You have definitely been Isaac Yankum before, because you said it in that exact inflection.
I want to see the footage. I think these guys are liars. Welcome back. As you can see, we have a little bit of a different setup this year. Francois, why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Absolutely. So, we thought this year, we were thinking about this year and about what we could do to maybe step things up a little bit. And we've been wanting to do this for a long, long time. But it hasn't really been feasible until the last like 2 or 3 years. So a company that we love, that we get our cameras from, it's called Blackmagic Production. And they released a thing called a switcher, a mini switcher. And so essentially, like if you watch a live concert or a live program and you see there's multiple camera angles, what they have is they have like this big thing that's called a switcher, which multiple cameras are hooked up to. And then they, on command, can switch between all these cameras. They're stupidly expensive, usually running between like $25,000 and $40,000. They're just like ridiculous. Only productions with really big budgets can afford them. But Blackmagic, as always, they keep making things that challenge what is possible for an independent video production company to do. They created a thing called the mini switcher. And so it's just this little box, and it has 4 inputs, so we can hook up to 4 cameras or whatever up to it, and then we can switch between those cameras. And as our producer will show you right now,
Kevin, through the magic of switching.
Kevin, through the magic of switching, is going to switch through some cameras right now and show you what I'm talking about. As you can see, that's pretty cool. So in addition to that, we thought, what else can we do? So we added camera angles, make it a little more dynamic, a little more interesting. What else can we add? What else can we step up? The one thing that's always been pretty shit on this program has been the quality of the audio. And that's because we essentially, like, the audio equipment we own, we don't, up until recently, we've mostly done, the recording that we've needed to do in terms of audio has been on set audio recording. So the type of recording equipment you need for that is like if you ever watch a movie behind the scenes and you see a guy with a boom pole with a big fucking fuzzy thing at the end. Those are the kind of microphones we have, and they're really great at getting a lot of audio in, like, if you're filming a scene and you need to extract as much audio as is possible. But they're not necessarily the best for getting high quality isolated audio that you might want when it's just one person speaking into a microphone. So to make a long story short, we bought some new microphones. Our voices should sound a lot clearer and a lot easier to understand, a lot more isolated. We got a switcher. We got multiple camera angles. The program's looking great.
We have a proper mixer as well now for our audio.
Yes, that is also very important. So yeah, we've just stepped it up overall. And we designed like a set this year. It looks a little bit nicer. We're not sitting on those ratty couches anymore. Give us much love and applause. We're great, and we worked really hard. And
Yeah,
thank
the
you very much.
couches finally went to the dump. Finally, after 6 years.
6 years, 6 long years.
Yeah, well, the chair I sat in was the first piece of furniture that my parents bought for their house when they were 22 and 21 when they bought the couch.
My God.
So that couch that chair was over 30 years old.
Older than all 3 of us.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. And then that couch, that was just a piece of shit you had in university.
It was a university couch that I had purchased for sitting and laying, as well as fornicating. So very, very important piece of furniture.
What about for fingering girls? Well, it wasn't your parents' couch, though.
No, fornication is not just vaginal intercourse. We could fornicate in multiple ways.
I agree.
I fornicated on that thing, and I fornicated, and I fornicated, and I fornicated. I'm not saying what I did.
Already, it's gone that way. We were hoping to keep this first one a little bit more tame.
I didn't swear.
Have it be more.
I wasn't explicit.
More focused on what we've been up to since. Well, it's only been a year, but it feels like it's been so much longer than a year since the last time we've.
Well, Andrew,
addressed our
let me
audience.
jump in on that one. And I think the reason for that is largely because for those of you in Namibia who don't have the internet, there's a disease going around. It's called COVID. It's really thrown a wrench into things.
Yeah, I guess this is the first time we've been able to talk. Like, this is the first thing we filmed
Addressing
while
the
that's
audience.
been going on. Yeah, I was actually thinking about that today because usually on this program, and we're still planning on it as far as I know, we get guests on for the 12 podcasts at Christmas because it's always more interesting to
We will have at
get
least
some people.
one guest.
We have at least one book now, but I was thinking because of COVID, and these are really dateable because we do them at Christmas. Like,
Well, you're allowed to have private gatherings of up to 15 people.
yeah, but is
They
it
still
like
they still recommend not being outside of a bubble of.
It's still
Yeah.
not illegal. It's not recommended.
yeah? But it's like, will our fan base frown upon us?
No, I don't think Swade will mind.
No, you don't think so, Omar?
Cheers to you, buddy.
I guess we could always set up like we could just get our guests, put them 6 feet away from us.
And put a specific camera on them.
Yeah, we could.
And
I
put
mean,
a
it's
sign
possible.
on them that says, "This person
Is dirty.
is 6 feet away." Whoa, Andrew, you are a terrible person.
Dirty with COVID.
Oh, glass eyes. Okay.
Before we move on, I got one more thing that could be exciting because this has been a thing since the inception of this podcast.
Sorry, go ahead.
A running joke for a very, very long time. We have the capability. We're not doing it in this episode, but we're thinking about it for maybe some of the future episodes. We could stream this live. We could do this live. In which case,
Our Twitter is going to fucking
Blow
explode.
up.
so
Fuck it. We'll do it live.
I don't know. Maybe we'll do like a Facebook. Can you do polls on Facebook
Yep.
and stuff? Maybe we should do a little Facebook poll and be like, should we do an episode live? It would be fun to do one episode.
I think
like
we
at
should do
least one episode.
I think we
live.
should do multiple live, and here's why. Because we can. Now, a lot of viewers out there I know are screaming at the television. They're screaming at Francois.
More likely their phones. But
They're screaming at their phones saying, "You're lying to us. We had dynamic podcasts. We've had multiple angles. You're a liar. You're a liar. I've been
evidence
watching
exists.
this for 7 years. You had dynamic angles. They went away. Your word means nothing to me now. You're terrible. And here's why. Editing those is a bugger.
was not feasible.
It's a bugger to it's a bugger to edit. So what we're doing is not only do we have the capability to stream this live, but now it gives us a final edited product from where the cameras are switched, delivered to us.
Yeah.
The switcher does the work. We just sit here and talk.
Yeah, the second that we finish speaking to each
It's
other,
done.
we basically have a finished product. Like we for this one, all we need to do is put the intro in and put the outro in, and then it's done. We have it figured out as well. If we want to do this live, we could do the intro and the outro all in one go, and then have a finished product ready to go. So basically, it's like, yeah, all we need to do with this after the fact is watch it, skip through just to make sure none of the audio got cut out and nothing fucked up, basically, and then it's good to go to upload. This is so much better than before.
Yeah.
Like before, what we did for all you newbie podcast listeners, all you hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people, we did it with GoPros, right?
Yeah, we did like 5 angles.
Yeah, so I think we used to use GoPros, and then we'd film it all consecutively, and then we'd have to take all that footage and then edit it like a music video or anything else we
it was
edited.
an hour.
But they were an hour long, and so you'd have to sit there and fucking
Also, we
cut.
cut over each other, or speak over each other so often, especially early on when we were first learning how to speak and carry a conversation out. So it was like 600 or 700 cuts in an hour. Because, yeah.
But now saying it like that, when you say it like that, maybe it was good for.
Well, we learned lots.
Yeah, maybe it was
only
good for like skill building.
The only way we were going to learn the things that we learned from that, both about what not to do for a podcast, and in general, just like editing stuff.
Yeah.
We had to make that mistake, and I feel like that's a big part of
This is as
our
easy as
career. Yeah.
Camera on me. Camera on me. This is how easy it is. That's how easy it is.
Camera on me. Camera on us now.
Camera wide now. Camera wide.
Okay. And that's a great time to drink some moose milk.
We're talking about a new sponsor to this podcast. That's not actually a sponsor. Don't sue us. Moose milk. It's a Canadian
Thing I've never tried.
Apparently, it was popular in the Canadian Armed Forces.
I gave it a sniff, and it made me cough. Oh, it's nice. Yeah, yeah.
What
It'd be really great over like on
What
ice
is
with a little
with
bit of milk.
what's with
Yeah.
Christmas and dairy? That'd
be good on
They
ice.
really love that dairy at Christmas.
I think it's probably a medieval thing.
Probably.
When in the winter, what would you eat if you were in a medieval? Lots of salted meat, and if you were wealthy, you had a cow. You could have cow or goat. You could have cheese or goats or cow's milk.
Yeah. I don't disagree.
And that's when Christmas was traditions. A lot of them date back.
Why?
As that far.
Why then does Kris Kringle want you to give him a kiss for a toy?
Who's Kris Kringle?
Oh my God, you Dutch Africans have no idea. That's Santa Claus.
Kris Kringle, Santa Claus?
Santa Claus is coming to town.
His name is Kris Kringle.
That's father?
Then Kris Kringle.
Father Christmas?
Brahma. Okay. Another
Nicholas?
thing that's kind of happened recently is that there has been apparently an official change in the U.S. government.
Oh yeah.
We need a recount in California. And I have been saying this since election night.
He has been saying this since election night.
We need a recount in California.
Yeah.
It's the only way we're going to win.
You speak for yourself, not we. You.
Well, I mean, I don't.
If we get a recount, there is a good chance that Joe Jorgensen has a shot at this presidency. Independent Joe Jorgensen.
Oh, I see.
Oh, you're talking about Biden and Trump. No, I'm thinking of Joe Jorgensen.
No, I honestly thought. I forgot that was a human being. So I thought you were just making
Making
fun
up
of
a
Joe
name.
Biden's name. Like I thought you were just like Joe Schmo over here. Like, that's what I thought you were doing.
Stephen Gilbert. No,
Like
Joe
a sleepy,
Jorgensen's
like a
that
Sleepy Joe
independent.
kind of thing. No, U.S. election, COVID. One thing I will say, if I hear one more person use the phrase "these unprecedented times," I'm going to throat punch them because it's such a nonsense thing to say, and it's like a long-haired businessman kind of thing. It's like, we're trying to do business in these unprecedented times.
Andrew, to use that as a springboard, kind of into what I want to talk about. We were very fortunate during COVID that a lot of the people we work with were still active. So shout out to musicians who are still giving her in these unprecedented times.
Now I have to throat punch you.
Well, we'll save that for episode 9. The only thing we really ran into is, darn, it was sure hard to get your hands on some electronics early on. They were not shipping anything anywhere.
We were actually hoping to have the switcher near the beginning of COVID so we could kind of pivot into doing some live stuff, maybe with some venues.
But
with
now there's a bunch of
switcher.
people stuck with a switcher they didn't want because they couldn't wait. And now we got what we wanted when we needed it. And
Ultimately,
we can all be
timing ended
thankful
up
for that.
working out very well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because it's I guess like it's two different things because the microphones and the switch are two different thoughts.
Yeah.
But it is kind of nice that it all lined up.
Yeah,
It lined up beautifully.
I think let's maybe just to give us some a place to kind of have a beginning and an end here. Let's maybe talk about our last year and some of the projects that we've done and maybe some things we've learned or maybe kind of start with a couple highlights of the last year and then maybe transition to talking about what's coming in the new year, what we want to achieve.
I can
moving
speak a
forward.
little bit to, as an award-winning videographer,
That was this year.
I can speak to. We won Saskatchewan Country Music Video of the Year. Our team was nominated 5 years in a row. In this most recent year, we actually were nominated against ourselves, and we kicked our butts. That's how easy that was.
Yes. Thank you, JJ, for the song and for putting us in contact with Joel.
Yes, we had an amazing time. We worked with an amazing director, co-director on our project, Joel Stewart. Joel has worked with lots of big stars in CMT. He directed all of Core Blund's music videos, which we're all huge fans of those projects. So we were very fortunate to be able to work with him. We learned lots. We kind of got to do quite a bit larger scale. That project was really nice. So definitely, if you haven't checked out JJ Voss or Some People, definitely give it a watch because it is award-winning. And we've been really throwing that around online.
We've been really trying for awards, and we finally popped the cherry with that CMA. So that was exciting.
And I'll just say one more thing that I think was cool from this year. We were able to kind of get on board with a band in Saskatoon called Weapons, who we've been looking forward to working with for quite some time. And we had a meeting, hit it off really well, and we were able to produce some videos for them. And we're going to be producing some more stuff moving forward. Yeah, they got charting singles, and they're doing really well, and we're excited to be part of it. So take it away, gentlemen. What else?
Yeah, Weapons was certainly a highlight, meeting them, and that's a good one. That seems like, again, it's so much has happened in that span of a year. It seems like that stuff was so much longer ago than it was. I'm trying to think of what else.
I guess Weapons was on the last podcast, weren't they?
They were, yeah. We've
been actually working with them.
Yeah, and we in the year we planned, filmed, and released their music video.
Yeah.
Off the top of my heart, I think it was a huge achievement for everyone. Specifically, I want to give a nod to Francois on that one, just because of how much, again, much like Stick Breaker, it really didn't come together until it was put together in post, and all the work that Francois did, and like discovering a bunch of new techniques and bettering old ones. I think that was just like a huge milestone.
And we submitted it for an award, so fingers crossed on the 30th of November, we're going to find out whether or not we got a nomination.
A nomination for the Saskatchewan Music Awards. I think the big one for me is starting the Skull Creek sessions. That was like my big highlight for this year. And that's, I guess, kind of ties into moving forward as well. But that's a project that I've wanted to get going for a long time. And this year just kind of seemed like the right year to kind of get things moving, and I'm kind of hoping that in the next few months, we've been kind of quiet with it. We've only released one, but I'm kind of hoping in the next few months we'll be able to see some more rapid growth with that project, just because of some stuff that we can't announce yet. But
Andrew, what are the Skull Creek sessions for those of us who don't know?
Fair enough. I guess I should probably describe that. Skull Creek sessions are our collaboration with Aspen Beverage of Skull Creek Studios. Aspen and Liet, who's a 4-time Juno Award-winning guitarist and recording artist of fame, frankly. He and Aspen have a studio that we work closely with in just every capacity. He does a lot of if we have any external audio needs, he'll take care of those. He did all the mixing and mastering for Peppercorn Ranch. He's in a band that we've worked with for a long time, League of Wolves. And we pass business back and forth to each other, and just a really good, beyond just a client, I would say, especially now with the Skull Creek sessions, a true collaborating partner, a collaborator. And anyways, we've kind of noticed that there are other music sessions, I guess, live music sessions. I don't know how you would classify them.
Yeah, like music web series kind of stuff.
Music web series where it's like kind of like the Tiny Desk concert, I think, was the first one that really like got big, I guess.
Gained traction for sure.
Yeah, it's the main one, like modern anyways. I mean, there's like the whatever Austin City Limits, that like there's like various ones that happened on TV, but now the modern version is a band will play 1 or 2 songs that are released individually at a cool location, and it's filmed. And people in our area, there's one that's kind of a competitor, but they do it so sporadically, and whoever manages it doesn't really seem to care all that much about doing it in a way that I don't know. Like, how would you describe that? Like, it seems very haphazard to me. It doesn't seem like it's done with very much care or attentiveness. And being members and caring about the music scene, specifically the Saskatchewan music scene, we wanted to kind of find a way that we could sort of give back to that community while also creating awesome content that kind of helps build our brand and get us more exposure. And the new session, the Skull Creek sessions, kind of just seemed like the right move. And
I just think if you've ever worked with us, you know that we're very self-serving and we want to ensure that we benefit from it. And I think that's the most important thing with Skull Creek sessions is that no one else benefits but us. We're absolutely rocking it. We're taking advantage of everybody involved. It's really, really awesome for us. And I just think that any band out there, if you want to help us succeed and at your own peril. No, all joking aside though, yeah, it's just, it very much is akin to when we did the Battle of the Bands.
Battle of the Bands, yeah.
And, we just wanted something that, it's worth our while, but at the same time, it does help tremendously get back to the music community, where we cut our teeth. So I think that's really important. So I think that's a great one to raise, Andrew.
Yeah, I think moving forward, we're looking forward to just doing more of them, releasing more of them on a regular schedule. And I don't want to say too much more because there's a bunch of stuff in the works right now with regards to that project, but look forward to those more of those coming soon.
What are you excited from 2020, Francois?
Well, if I can just dovetail off what we were talking about before, maybe double back here. My big thing this year was for sure the Weapons music video. That was like, it's the first big project. So throughout our career, there's been certain music videos and certain projects that have been technically complex, I guess would be the best way to describe it. And since upgrading from, so before the computer, my work computer that I used to work on was a laptop, great laptop, MSI GS70 Stealth Pro. And it was, it's our producer's using it right now. Great laptop, still works great, still kicking. But the last, what I would describe as complex project we worked on, I worked on that computer. And Peppercorn Ranch was that project. So since then, so I knew after we finished Peppercorn, or we didn't finish Peppercorn Ranch, but anyways, I knew when in the production of Peppercorn Ranch and just how difficult it was that the workflow that I was using wasn't going to be able to continue. And that computer specifically was just not up to the task of doing that. So like we talked about it, took a little while. We all upgraded to new computers. We have new hardware. But since upgrading to the new hardware, we hadn't had a project that was so difficult that I could really be like, how much more leverage am I given here with this new hardware to compare it with the old hardware? Like how much better is this doing? Like how much more?
As a benchmark.
Yeah, exactly. So because we've been shooting a lot of just kind of like more, I don't even know what you call it, but just like music. We've shot lots of music videos. We've done lots of projects. Don't get me wrong. But they've all been just like cutting, basically. It's like simple effects, cutting, all like
more traditional.
It's all been like more heavily lean. We were leaning more on like the cinematography aspect,
Concept,
the locations,
and just the concept in general. too.
Yeah. So like nothing that required any like craziness in post production, basically. Like just a pretty stock standard like post process. The production phase, that's where the refinement was. The post production phase was kind of a little more standard. So the Weapons video, however, we knew from the get-go that it was going to be a project that was going to come together in post. And it was it was all shot in 4K. There was tons of effect shots in it. And
a third of it was green screened.
Yeah, most of it is green screen. So like that was a project that I knew was going to be something that was going to, I was going to be able to test the new hardware with. And it was just so night and day. It's like, I can't imagine having tried to do that project on my old computer. It just wouldn't have been feasible. But anyways, yeah, it's like I learned. Not only did I discover new ways to achieve old effects in way faster and way better, and just refine my overall, like, After Effects to me. So the program we use to do some of the more complex effects you see in some of the music videos is called After Effects, and it's a program by Adobe, and it's like a mine that is like that's had a cave in, and it's like you start and you uncover a little bit, and it's like, wow, there's all this like really interesting stuff here, but it's like at first it's like it's really difficult to get to this part. It's like I got to take this really obtuse way, and it's like this is really cool that I can do this, but it's like it's really complex and I don't like doing it. But the more you use it and the more you work at it, the more paths you open up, and the easier it becomes to get from point A to point B. So it's like I want to do a green screen effect. Now I figured out a way to do it. And it's like the more you use After Effects, the easier it becomes, and the more things you uncover, and the more efficient you become at it. And the thing I love the most about After Effects is the fact that it's like it's a program that almost like is it's like a mountain. It like looks at you and it's like, fuck you. I'm really complex. There's tons of sub menus and tons of menus and tons of numbers and tons of values. But then it's like, but if you fucking come at me, you're gonna get the best fucking experience. It's like you keep running at me, bash your head into that cement wall again and again and again and again and again, and it's gonna suck and it's gonna be difficult and challenging. But eventually you're gonna break through that wall, and then it's like a whole new thing opens up to you, and then there's 16 other walls, and then you can go bash right through those walls, and that opens up more walls. And so I'll say that like with this latest project, I've refined my ability to use After Effects to a place where it's like I feel like I'm finally at like not a pro level, but like I'm very familiar. Like it's like I'm now comfortable. It's like I can get in there, and it's like you asked me to do something, and I'm not only will I be able to achieve what you asked me to do, but I'm going to have it organized and set up in a way that a professional could come and be like, yep, like that guy has the pre-compositions where they need to be. He can plug a new font in. And it's not going to be if a client, because like one thing you'll do with After Effects and Photoshop and a lot of things is you will construct a project in a way that, like, let's say you have a font or something and a client is like, I don't like that font, change that font. You've made it so difficult for yourself to change that font that you're like, fuck. And then it's like you basically need to start from scratch to get this new font in, just an example. But there are ways, if you pay attention, if you're careful in the planning phases with After Effects and Photoshop and different things, that if you set it up, you can do things like change the color, change the font, change the whatever things that a client, like there are common things that clients ask. I don't like the color. I need it less saturated. I need a different font. I need less movement, stuff like that. And if you construct your project in certain ways from the get-go, you can change that stuff with very little problem and without it being a pain in the ass. So I think with this weapons video, I'm finally at a stage where it's like now I've reached a level of like understanding of this is what I need to do in preparation when I'm starting a project, so that I know that later on when I've got to do stuff, it's not a pain in the ass and it's a smoother process and whatever.
I find that I'm finding very much a similar thing with Photoshop and the level that I'm at now, where I'm avoiding doing destructive edits. And like, for example, I've done the menu at Prairie Sun Brewery, and I want to, like, if I had tried to do it 3 years ago, 18 months ago even, I would have done it in such a destructive way that it's like, oh, now we need to change this wording of this food item. It's like, oh God, I got to redo this whole thing. And I'm very, very diligent about making sure that everything is isolated separately and everything is saved in such a way that I can reopen it. And now, like, I instead of overwriting projects, I just save projects with new dates, updated this date. So if somebody says, remember back in May we had the menu like this, then I can open up that May menu and work on it. And it's like, it doesn't cost me anything. It's just taking that extra time and thinking like, what might need to happen later down the road. And I was very, very bad at that initially. I would just go in and do everything on one layer and like just totally screw it up, and then just save it as an image file or a PDF, and now I've got this thing that I can't work on later. So I think that's also kind of where I'm at. So that's very akin.
Yeah. And so yeah, I guess like so to conclude the little rant I was having, I'm very proud of the progress that I made personally on the weapons video for Off the Top of My Heart. I think it's a great video. I think it's got a really good concept. at one point, I remember I was sitting there and I was thinking about a way. It's like, how can we end this video in a way? And then I'm like, I just wrote down a piece of paper. I'm like, explode TVs question mark. And I'm like, it's stupid. I'm just going to say it. And then it's like, we can talk about it. And then it's like, mentioned it. And then it was just like, yeah, let's get some tannerite and let's blow up these TVs and have an explosion at the end. And yeah, it was just, it was, I don't know. It's like, I don't know why. I mean, obviously there is such a thing as dumb ideas. There are ideas that are so ridiculous that it's like, can't be done. But it's like, I don't know. It's like we've been working at this so long now that we understand, I should have a better understanding of like, it's better to present an idea, talk through it, it doesn't work out, whatever, and then have, at least it was presented so that the potential for that idea coming to fruition was there, rather than not having said anything, there was no explosion at the end of the video, and we didn't have that excellent, really funny gag at the end. So please, if you haven't, go to YouTube, Facebook, wherever it is, look up Weapons Off the Top of My Heart, watch the music video, give it a like, give it a share, comment on it. Very proud of it. Worked really hard on it. That would mean a lot to us and Weapons, I'm sure.
I think that it's one thing that we've always talked about, and not to discredit other videography companies that we see in the province, and they make beautiful products. Saskatchewan has a very, very underestimated film production scene, especially in the world of music videos. For the number of people we have and the limited amount of talent we have, we do, as a province, turn out a lot of really cool projects. There's a lot of crap. There's a lot of self-made crap, but that's fine. People are still learning. They don't have the budgets, that's fine. But I think one thing that we've always kind of stood above, and which is only getting better and nobody else seems to be catching up, is the effects work that Francois does, and that everyone else has got great cinematography. We also have really cool ideas.
I was going to say, like, I think where we stand out is, and so
nobody else is blowing up
pretentious,
TVs and rolling cars and stuff. People are walking down a street singing, and
it looks with a steady cam, and it looks really nice.
It looks beautiful. It looks beautiful. It looks like it was shot in LA. That's awesome.
But it was also the same thing that I saw 3 times last week.
That's not where we're at now. Yeah. There's so much content flying at you that if it isn't awesome, nobody's gonna watch it.
And different. It has to be like different, but in a digestible way.
Yeah. If you're the Red Hot Chili Peppers, you can just release whatever you want, and people will watch it because they want to hear the song and they want to see what you're up to. But if you're a no-name band, unless it's awesome, they don't care. They're not going to stick around. You wasted your money by making that video, in my opinion.
I have no qualm in saying, and I think it's very accurate to say, we're not the best editors in this province. We're not the best cinematographers in this province. We get better every year. We're getting better. Maybe we'll get to that stage where we are the best. I'm never going to claim that we're the best cinematographers, the best editors in this province. But in terms of idea generation, in terms of pushing the limit as to what you can achieve on the budgets we have, and like the things that we're actually like trying to push ideas forward, and we're trying to try new things, and it's like what crazy thing can we do? It's like nobody in this province holds a candle to anything we're doing. It's like, find one music video for me by a production company of our size, or even 5 times our size, that is trying to achieve the same thing that we're doing. With a budget, I would even go like a budget that's fucking 5 times the size. A production team that's 5 times the size, and a budget that's 5 times the size. Find those things, and then find me an idea that's trying to do something as ambitious as what we're trying to do. And it's like, especially in this province, I would say the prairies, like, you just won't. Like, I don't think anybody holds a candle to us in terms of like what we're willing to attempt and what we're willing to like. It's not even attempt. It's like, we have an idea. It's like, we're going to fucking go at this until we figure out, we unlock the secret as to how do we make this work. It's like I think that's something to say. It's like we haven't given up on a project. So it's like, we have no examples of projects that we've given up on, but it's like, but I think that's just because it's like, we don't give up on projects. Somebody says they have this crazy idea, then it's like, well, let's figure it out. How do we do that
I think one thing that I love about us as a group is there are lots of instances where we work with artists that, they haven't done a ton of music videos, or, they're not the kind of people to come out and say, like, I want this cool thing to happen. And we could just absolutely phone it in and not try any of the cool stuff we try. And they're like, we could totally do it, take a paycheck, and they would be like, oh, this is awesome. This is so great. We love it anyway. But we always want to try and sneak in those little things. one of my favorite examples are two things that we did, and this is totally separate from the Justin's music, See You in the Stars. So Francois did awesome with the star thing, and I love that part. But two little cool things for me that I just think are so cool and were super not. They're simple, but you wouldn't necessarily think of them. Are the chalk transition when he's looking at the chalk and then all of a sudden it switches and he's in the bar. You know what I mean? Where he's looking at the chalk cue and then he's in the bar, and then the photograph goes from a still image to an animated image. And I think we didn't have to do that stuff. If we didn't do that, Justin never would have noticed, and he would have been like, "This video's still great." But it's those little like,
it's the difference between like, do you care in all aspects of the production phase, or is it just the one? It's like to bring it back to like other production companies. It's like you can tell that they're production companies that really care about the cinematography aspect and they really care about the editing aspect, and they do a really wonderful job of those two things, and they're shot well and they're edited well and the colors are great. But it's like, but then you get to the idea generation aspect of the video and it's like you're lacking. It's just like there's nothing unique about your video. I've seen 1,000 videos like this.
Playing it
whatever.
safe, yeah.
And not to say that we're perfect by any means, but I'd say in terms of like where we are in every aspect of the production phase, the phase that hands down like could use the most work for us is pre-production. Like that's obviously something you can always advance at. But it's like, but that's not to say that we don't really sit down and like our pre-production. I should say this. Technically, our pre-production phase could be better. Like the planning and the actual like whatever the scheduling and the shot lists and all that stuff could be better and more refined. But in terms of like the idea generation aspect of the pre-production phase, it's like we put a ton of effort into that, trying to come up with something that's actually unique and actually different and actually is gonna satisfy a customer. And then with the filming process, once again, it's like we are trying our damnedest to get the best image that we can on a camera. We're trying our damnedest to get the steadiest shots. We're fucking, if we sweat and faint and whatever, we're gonna go do that. And then in the post-production phase, once again, we're putting fucking everything into that. We're trying our hardest to do the best edits and the best whatever. And like I said, I'm never gonna say that we're the best cinematographers and editors in this province. I don't think we are, but it's like we get better every year. And we give it our all, so it's like we're getting better and better and better and better. And like I said, whereas I think with a lot of other production companies, you can pinpoint the players where it's like I can see that you half-assed this part of the process in pre-production.
I'll give you a really good example.
I don't think we do that.
I got a really good example. We recently met with a client, and he had an idea in his mind, and we liked the idea. We thought the idea was great. And he had a second song, and he's like, "What do you guys think about this song?" And when we walked into the meeting, we weren't doing the first song anymore. Now we're doing the second song. Because this idea that we came up sitting at a table having lunch turned out to be so cool. And it's like, man, and it was like this concept is simpler, it fits your budget a lot better. We can come back and you do your idea when you have a bigger budget. And he's like, man, this is awesome. I'm so amped about this idea that we had over lunch. Which I think is, that's really cool. That's really cool.
We've always been really good at thinking on our feet. And I think especially like our early career, a lot of it was like bands approaching us saying, "Hey, can you film a music video tomorrow to release at the end of the month?" Okay, thanks.
Yeah,
we were forced to. Yeah, we were forced. We didn't do pre-production because there was no time for pre-production. We did pre-production while we were setting shit up for the fucking production. So now that we are able to kind of advise bands a little bit more, and we know we don't just have to take the jobs because we need the money. We can say, hey, let's delay this a little bit. Let's get some pre-production. Let's make some time to plan this and
do it right.
Do it right and put a quality product out.
Maybe, and just as a last thing, because we were just talking about things that from this past year that we haven't spoken about and things that we're proud of or whatever. I'll mention one last thing, and then maybe we can, because we got like a segment planned, right? For episode 2, yeah. Episode 2, we got a segment plan. Sorry. So maybe this is the
let's
end on this. Okay,
so
the last thing that I think is worth mentioning, it's a technical thing, maybe not the most interesting thing, but I think it's worth mentioning just to document that I'm just super proud of this in particular, just because it speaks a lot about our priorities. So one thing that is difficult when you're doing video production, especially like. A lot of capital is involved in pre-production, and anybody who thinks about it for more than 4 seconds knows that. It's like it requires cameras, it requires computers, it requires Microphones are required. It's just like there's so many things that go into it that cost money, and lots of capital needs to be invested. And it's like you need to be careful you need to be selective as to where are we spending this capital, what is going to be most beneficial, what are we going to get the most mileage out of, what is going to gain more clientele, what are clientele going to notice, and what things are they going to care about. Don't spend your money on something that nobody's going to give a shit about, whatever. But there are so the obvious things are cameras, steady cams, things like that. The clientele are going to see, and it's like this is as obvious, very benefits that you get to see very actively, immediately. Those things are always exciting for everybody because it's just like you can see the results of them so clearly in your face. One area that I think lots of beginner production companies, we're not beginner anymore, but it's like we're still fledgling, we're like small. Lots of production companies lack, and it's a place where it's so hard to like get the motivation to invest money is, so when you film, right, you got a camera, that means you're shooting and you got data. So that means your video file goes in your memory card, you have 500 gigabytes on a memory card, and you need to put that somewhere so that you can edit your video. So the last few years, essentially what we've been doing, and you have things called hard drives, and I'm sure everybody's used one. If you haven't used one, like I'm sure at school you used a thumb drive, which you had to do projects. So just think of a larger version of that. So we've been putting our footage onto those things, and they've been portable, and they've been really convenient for their cost effectiveness and their portability, because they're very cost effective. Especially now, you can get them for very cheap, and you can get a lot of space. You can get like 2 terabytes for less than $100. And that's great. And they're portable. So it's like if I'm working on something and then I want Brad to do something, I can just give him this portable drive and then he can work on it. So they're very convenient. The problem with them is they're prone to failure. If you drop them, if you unplug them at the wrong time, like there's lots of things that can go wrong with them. And so basically the last we've been at this for 6 years now. Yeah, the last 6 years. We've had this system where our projects have all gone on these hard drives, and they usually have been located in exclusively, basically. Our projects have always been in one spot. Like we've never had a backup of projects, and we've been very fortunate the last few years that we've never had like a huge fuck up. In that we've had one fuck up, but it worked out. I'll explain in a second. The only times we've really fucked up is when I deleted a whole bunch of I deleted an entire day's worth of data. From a music video shoot, but that was just was user error.
There was no saving that.
Yeah, that was just user error. That
Honestly,
that was just my big fuck up.
It ended up being the best thing for that project. So
yeah, it worked out in the end, but it's like that was me. I deleted that, so that's like not that wasn't the hard drive's fault. But we did do a music video for Band in the City, and it was a really complex music video. Once again, well, it wasn't really that complex. There was lots of effects. I did work on it for like hours and hours. The people that we were working with were particular about certain things. And so that was on a hard drive, and that hard drive failed. And I lost all that footage and that entire project file and was devastated and was like ready to be like, we were talking about like, do we send this to a data recovery thing and spend $1,000 to get this footage back?
To maybe get it
back. And then it's like, I need to talk to the client and tell them that this footage is lost and like discuss it. Luckily, we had basically finished the video and I had exported a finished version, and there was just small changes that needed to be made. So this is not optimal. And if anybody who does video production listens to this, they'll be disgusted. But it's like, I took that final render and then I did the final edits on that compressed exported video file and then exported again. And that was the final music video. Not optimal by any means. Still looked great. Client was happy.
Thankfully, it was 4K.
Thankfully, yeah. But definitely not optimal. It was definitely like the first reality check I had where I was like, yeah, these are not these infallible items. Like these do fail, can fail, will fail. And it's like, for certain clients that know us and are friends, it's like, they'll understand. But the way I always thought of it is like, what if we get that? What if we land that client that's like just a step above in terms of like their separation from us and just like their
bigger budget,
that kind of thing. It's like a Yukon Blonde or a Glorious Sons, even bigger, but it's like, you know what I mean? So you land that client and then you're still using that same process of you just have it backed up in one spot, and then that hard drive fails. It's like then that could be detrimental to our career, because then it's like then that artist says, "Fuck those guys. They lost all our footage. We spent 3 days shooting this shit, and they lost it all. Fuck them. Don't use them." And then that's shit. So this is in my mind the last few years. So it's like I was trying to I was looking up lots of ways to back up footage. What are the best ways? And like lots of people, there's so many different levels of video production that so many people have lots of different solutions. But to make a long story short, we essentially got a device. So everybody's heard of the cloud. We have a device now in our studio that essentially is just like a big hard drive that has lots of space on it. And it allows us to back up data to it. So now we always have our data in two places, any project. We have it in our one central hub where everything gets backed up, and that's all that's used for. And then we also have all of our data on those portable drives. So we retain the efficiency of you can take my hard drive, I can take the hard drive, whatever. But we also have it backed up. So if that hard drive fails, we have it all there. We can get it all back. It's not a big deal. Mm-hmm. And it's got lots of other uses too. But essentially, I'm just really proud of the fact that we were, as a company, we decided that that's a priority. We need to know that footage is safe and that that's backed up and that we're not going to lose a client's footage. And I think that's that's a step that fledgling production companies don't make. And that's the difference between them and professionalism. And it's like we decided to make that next step into professionalism. And I think that's a huge move. It's a technical thing.
Also,
you probably didn't understand what I was saying, but it's like a huge step for us, I think, this year.
Also, just like giving buying a new hard drive, working hard drive for each product. In addition to that, and just
archiving,
it's
another thing we've started doing.
Archiving things properly and giving each product its own space. I think is again a step in that right direction for professionalism and safety in terms of not losing footage.
Excellent. Well, I think that kind of caps our year. On our next episode, we are going to be doing a little challenge. So stay tuned for episode 2. Thanks so much for tuning into episode 1. I want to save that for the beginning of the next one.
We could. It's just it's a little guy. Oh, I thought next time we're gonna be drinking Coke. How much fucking?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like, do we need to do one of these every start every?
Thanks very much for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen.
Whatever
that's the end of episode 1 of the 7th annual 12 Podcast of Christmas. We will see you in episode 2.
Thank you so much for tuning. Are you sure you want to do this?
Thank you so much for tuning in. Goodbye.
Do this?
No. Well, goodbye.
Here, let's do it.
No, it's done now.
No, do Mill.